Good evening. Breathe slowly, and allow your body to feel the calm that begins to arise from within you. Tonight, we will travel far into the past. To a world that moves very slowly, so slowly that time feels almost at a standstill. To a kingdom you may have studied in school, but tonight we see it from a different side. Not the side of war, not the side of politics, not the side of harsh grandeur. But the side that is soft, quiet, and full of peace. The kingdom is named Majapahit. Imagine a very silent night. No vehicles. No streetlights. Only the sound of the wind blowing gently among the great trees, carrying the scent of wet earth and freshly cut wood. In the distance, a river flows with a calm rhythm, like the sound of the earth breathing. Before Majapahit was established, the island of Java was a place that lived in slowness. Small villages were scattered along valleys and rivers. Rice fields stretched far, reflecting the morning sunlight. Houses of wood and bamboo stood simply, surrounded by the sounds of wild chickens, crickets, and banana leaves moving in the afternoon breeze. At that time, life moved following nature. No one was in a hurry, because there was no reason to be fast. Sunrise marked the start of work, and sunset was when everyone stopped, speaking softly on the porch of the house, or simply gazing at the sky full of stars. It was in a time like this that a young figure emerged. His name was Raden Wijaya. But tonight we do not see him as a great figure, but as a human being sitting under a large tree, perhaps with a mind full of questions, and a heart not yet knowing where destiny would take him. He gazed at the vast forest in front of him. The forest was dense and dark, but also calm, bringing a sense as if the world was waiting for something new. Birds perched on high branches, and the sounds of insects formed a natural background music, like a melody accompanying the birth of a new era. When Raden Wijaya received permission to open the Tarik forest, there was no grand ceremony, no magnificent announcement, only people working slowly, felling trees one by one. Every tree trunk that fell with a heavy but soft sound, echoing among the other trees. The forest slowly opened up, forming an empty space that looked like a new page in a book. Day by day, without loud voices, without commotion, that area turned into a small settlement. Smoke from bamboo kitchens rose slowly into the twilight sky, while children ran lightly between the new houses. No one knew that this simple place would become the center of the largest kingdom in the archipelago. In 1293, Majapahit was established. Not with fanfare, not with trumpets of honor. The kingdom was born like a sleeping baby, quiet, peaceful, and as if knowing that its life would be long. Imagine the first morning in Majapahit. Thin mist covered the ground. The air was very fresh, like the world had just been cleansed by the night rain. People began to work slowly. The sound of farming tools sounded soft, as if they knew they were becoming part of the beginning of a great history. Majapahit grew, not with speed, but with calmness. Every day felt like a small step, consistent, orderly, and soothing. And tonight, we will walk through that entire long journey. Slowly, gently, in a way that makes your eyes feel heavy, and your body ready to rest. Majapahit has just been born, and its long story is just about to begin. The newly established Majapahit was a simple kingdom. Far from the magnificent image we often hear. It was born from diligence, not crowds. From a forest opened slowly. From land cultivated with a patient heart. And from people whose lives followed the rhythm of nature. Imagine a morning in Majapahit. The sky is still pale blue. Dew hangs on the tips of rice leaves. The air feels so clear that breathing feels lighter. In the distance, the sound of wild chickens calls for the new day. Farmers come out of their houses and gaze at their fields. With steps that are not hurried. They walk following the still wet dirt paths. Carrying hoes on their shoulders. And a small smile on faces swept by the morning breeze. In every corner of the kingdom, life moves with the same smoothness. Children run lightly. Touching the soft earth beneath their feet. They laugh but not loudly. As if knowing that the morning world is still in the process of waking up. In the small market of Majapahit, merchants begin to arrange their goods. Fruits, leaves, salt, river fish. And woven fabrics made with great patience. Everything is placed neatly. With hands working slowly. As if every object has a place determined by nature. Buyers do not shout or bargain with high voices. They speak softly. Exchange smiles. And choose goods with full attention. There is no competition. No haste. Only life flowing calmly. Like the river surrounding the old villages. In the center of government, the atmosphere is similar. Scribes sit inside wooden rooms with soft lighting. The light of oil lamps dances on the surface of the table. Coloring the palm leaf manuscripts with golden nuances. They write down every royal decision. Every small order. Every important note. With hand movements that are regular and slow. Letters are written like steps of meditation. Calm, deep, and full of attention to detail. Outside that room, the sound of nature becomes the perfect background. Birds chirping low. Wind moving like a whisper. And bamboos rubbing against each other forming a soft rhythm. All those sounds become music for the life of Majapahit. Meanwhile, Raden Wijaya begins to see Majapahit grow. He walks among the residents' houses. Observing children playing. Farmers working. And merchants smiling. He sees this kingdom not as a place of power. But as a large home made of simplicity. Sometimes he stands by the riverbank. Gazing at the calm flow of water. As if looking for answers in the reflection of light on the river surface. There are days when he just sits quietly at the edge of a rice field. Listening to the sound of birds. Watching clouds move slowly. And feeling the wind touching his skin gently. In that silence, he finds a peace deeper than any praise. Majapahit continues to enlarge. But its growth remains unhurried. Villages become small towns. Small towns become large cities. But everything proceeds like a long dance moving softly. No step is forced. No rhythm is accelerated. And although the kingdom grows, the soul of Majapahit remains a soul born from the silent forest. A soul formed from wind, river water, and nature's whispers. A soul that makes every day feel like a page of a thin book. That you open slowly, without the intention to finish it soon. In these early times, Majapahit was a space where humans and nature lived side by side. In a gentle balance. No one dominated. No one was in a hurry. Everything went as it should. With a rhythm so slow. It made the heart slow down too. And tonight, we follow that rhythm. The same rhythm. A soothing rhythm. A rhythm that makes your eyelids heavier. And your breath softer. Majapahit is growing. And we are still at the beginning of its long story. Majapahit slowly grew into a kingdom starting to be known by surrounding regions. But that growth remained soft, like a flower blooming slowly. There were no sudden changes. Everything appeared from time to time. With a patience that seemed to be the hallmark of the world back then. In this early period of Majapahit's growth, a figure who would later become a great name began to appear in the story. His name was Gajah Mada. But tonight, we do not see him as a stern commander, but as someone present with calmness, with steps that are not hurried, and a heart full of patience. Imagine a young man standing in the palace courtyard. The afternoon wind blows slowly, moving the edge of the royal cloth he wears. He stands with a straight back, but not with an aura of arrogance. There is gentleness on his face, like someone who has long been friends with silence. He steps into the audience hall of the Majapahit Palace. That large room is filled with tall wooden pillars with fine carvings. Sunlight enters through the gaps in calculations on the wooden walls, creating soft patterns on the stone floor. Shadows move slowly, dancing along with the wind. Inside that hall, the high officials of the kingdom gather. But the atmosphere is far from tense. They speak softly. The exchange of words goes slowly. And every decision is made like someone writing letters on water. Slow, smooth, and full of care. Gajah Mada stands among them. He does not speak much. He observes more. Listening to every sentence that comes out. Every hand movement that gives a signal. Every breath drawn long before an important verdict is made. He learns from silence as much as he learns from words. When finally he holds an important position in the kingdom's security, it does not come with cheers. No one shouts proudly. There is no celebration music. Only soft smiles from the elders. And small nods from those who recognize his quality. On certain nights, Gajah Mada sits alone in his workroom. That small room is lit by a dim oil lamp, making shadows on the wall look like a silent dance. On his simple wooden table spreads a map of the archipelago. But he does not gaze at that map with great ambition. He looks at it like someone looking at a distant view from a hill peak. With calmness, with curiosity, and with a desire to understand the world slowly. Sometimes, he picks up a pen and marks a certain area. His movements are slow, as if every dot he makes must be in tune with his own breath. Sometimes he stops writing, taking a long time just to observe. The light of the oil lamp trembles slowly, as if joining in keeping the calm atmosphere of that room. The Palapa Oath, which we often hear as an oath full of determination and spirit. Tonight we view from a softer angle. Imagine Gajah Mada standing on the palace veranda, facing the afternoon sky starting to change color. Clouds move slowly. The sun slowly sets. And the world begins to fill with golden light. In the midst of that beauty, he speaks the words that will later be famous. But he does not shout. He does not ignite the fire of spirit. He speaks softly, almost like speaking to himself. The oath he utters feels like a whisper of determination. Not a war cry. More like a silent promise of someone to his own life. To walk with a clear purpose. Without haste. Without noise. But with deep earnestness. Outside the palace room, the life of the people of Majapahit continues as usual. Children play in the house yards. Mothers pound rice with a steady rhythm. Farmers go home slowly when the sun starts to go down. No one knows that their kingdom is in a historic moment. For them, life is a series of simple days. Days that start with morning mist and end with the soft night wind. But precisely behind that simplicity, Majapahit finds its strength. Strength that does not come from shouts, does not come from weapons, but from the harmony between humans and nature, between leaders and people, between purpose and calmness. Night walks slowly in Majapahit. The sky is filled with softly shining stars. From the distance, the sound of insects forms a delicate melody. And behind the palace walls, Gajah Mada sits quietly, listening to the world like someone listening to an old song that soothes the chest. Majapahit is entering an important period. But everything happens with gentle steps. Like time walking without the intention to rush. And we are still in the middle of that long journey. Majapahit slowly enters a more mature period. The kingdom begins to be known not only for its strength, but because of its peace that seeps into the corners of the region. If we imagine a great kingdom, we might imagine loud noises and hustle and bustle. But Majapahit often moves instead like an old hermit, walking slowly in the middle of a quiet forest. In the morning, cities in Majapahit wake up with the same atmosphere as its small villages. The sun rises softly from behind teak trees, showering houses with warm light touching thatched roofs. Small laughter is heard from children running barefoot, feeling refreshed by the cold morning dew. But there is one place always interesting to see in our imagination. The port of Majapahit. That place is a meeting point for various merchants from afar. But although busy, the busyness is not like a modern market full of noise. The port of Majapahit has its own silence. A living silence, emerging from the slow rhythm of people understanding each other. Imagine rows of large wooden ships with tall masts. Their sails sway gently in the sea breeze. Ship ropes bounce slowly on the masts, producing a repetitive sound that sounds like the ocean's heartbeat. Sailors step down from ships with slow steps. They bring goods from afar. Shining ceramics from China. Spices from other islands. Woven fabrics from places you might haven't even heard of. But everything is unloaded calmly. Without shouting for coordination. Without anxiety. On the other side of the port, local Majapahit merchants wait patiently. They sit on mats laid out since morning, with merchandise arranged neatly. There are fresh fruits. There is cinnamon and cloves. There are handicrafts made for days with full careful love. When foreign sailors and local merchants speak, their voices are almost like whispers. Different languages do not become obstacles, because their tone of voice is equally soft. They point to goods, smile softly, and make exchanges with simple gestures that feel like a small dance between two cultures. Around the port, we can imagine Majapahit youth sitting at the edge of the dock, observing ships coming and going. With curious faces, they gaze at the distant horizon, wondering what the lands behind that vast sea look like. But there is no hurried ambition in their eyes. Only a calm curiosity, which might later lead them to adventure. But not tonight. In the daytime, the sea breeze gets warmer. Waves break slowly at the edge of the dock, creating a repetitive sound that feels like a nature mantra. Seagulls glide low, occasionally making small sounds breaking the silence, but not eliminating the calm filling the air. The port of Majapahit is a meeting place of various characters, but all are bound by the same atmosphere. An atmosphere that flows. An atmosphere that accepts. An atmosphere that makes anyone want to sit for a long time and let time pass just like that. Meanwhile, at the center of government, royal officials work in their distinctive way. Slowly, attentively, and not losing composure even with many affairs. The royal audience hall is often filled with the scent of cinnamon, burned to fragrance the room. Thin smoke rises into the air, forming soft lines that break when touched by the wind. In that room, the royal elders chat softly, trying to keep the situation peaceful, like the calm of a river that never stops flowing. Gajah Mada, who is now increasingly known as a respected figure, never changes his attitude. He walks with the same steps as before. Steady, calm, and full of observation. He is often seen standing on the palace veranda, facing the city of Majapahit, which is starting to get busy. But the busyness is not a busyness that makes one dizzy, but an orderly busyness, like small ants building their nest, with silent diligence. Sometimes he smiles a little, seeing the life of his people. A smile that appears not because of great pride, but because of a gentle gratitude. Gratitude that he can be part of this calm world. A world he thinks is worth guarding with all his heart. At night, when oil lamps are lit, their light reflects a golden yellow glow on the palace walls. Long shadows appear on the stone floor. Guards walk slowly, following the rhythm of the night growing quieter. The sound of crickets begins to fill the air. They sing with the same pattern every night, like a lullaby given by nature. For all of Majapahit. From a distance, the port that was busy is now calm. Ships are tied neatly. The sea turns into a shining black surface, reflecting the moonlight appearing shyly from behind clouds. In times like this, Majapahit truly feels alive. Not in glitter, but in deep calmness, caressing the heart of anyone who realizes it. And tonight, that calmness also caresses you, making your breath softer, making your mind calmer, making your body feel lighter. Majapahit is in a golden age of peace, and we are still walking together in it. Majapahit continued to develop, and like a large tree with strong roots, the kingdom began to shelter many regions. But although big, Majapahit's energy remained soft. There was no hustle and bustle like a kingdom thirsty for power. There was only order flowing like a river, and life moving in a calmness almost like a long prayer. In the center of Majapahit city, there was a magnificent palace full of carvings and natural colors. But the grandeur of the palace did not come from shouting power, but from the refinement of art filling every corner. The palace grounds were filled with gardens tended carefully. Flowers bloomed in patterns arranged by the gardeners, creating a view soothing to the eye, and pleasing to the soul of anyone passing by. In the morning, When the sunlight was still soft, palace servants walked among the flowers to water the plants. Water falling from the pitcher sounded soft, ringing like a small note, blending with birdsong. Servants smiled a little at each other, because their work was part of the kingdom's peace. Inside the palace, royal dancers practiced with a slow rhythm. Their hand movements were smooth like wind stroking the water surface. They did not move fast, because the beauty of Majapahit dance lay in slowness, in the curve of fingers following the flow of breath, in feet stepping with tenderness, like someone walking on wet moss. Meanwhile, in another room, poets sat cross-legged, while writing ancient stories and wise advice. They used black ink from charcoal and sap, scratching words very patiently, as if not wanting to disturb the harmony of the air. They believed that words written in calmness would bring peace to anyone reading them later. The king and queen often walked along the palace hallway in the afternoon, not accompanied by a large army, but only a few servants walking slowly behind them. In the queen's hand, sometimes there was a small flower from the garden, and on the king's face, there was the calmness of someone who understood the rhythm of nature and the rhythm of humans. When they passed the courtyard, servants paid respect with gentle movements, without loud voices, without excessive ceremony. Everything was done simply, because simplicity was the original language of Majapahit. Outside the palace, in villages and small towns under Majapahit's shelter, life went on in the same peace. Potters sat in front of their kilns, spinning clay with hands full of patience. Simple shapes were created from that spin. Bowls, pitchers, plates, all made with a calm heart, as if every object had its own soul. Stone carvers worked under the shade of large trees, carving reliefs slowly. The sound of chisels hitting stone sounded rhythmic, like the earth's heartbeat. Every carving line was made with extraordinary precision, because carvers believed that art was a form of prayer. Near the square, poets recited poems for the people, not to get praise, but to give calmness. Their words flowed like a river current, soft, flowing, and carrying the listeners' minds to a more peaceful place. At night, when the whole kingdom was accompanied by moonlight, the sky of Majapahit looked like a vast canvas, filled with calm stars. Insect sounds became background music, accompanying the day slowly closing. In the village, people gathered on the porch of the house. They told stories while sipping warm drinks, laughing softly, and letting the night wind touch their skin. They shared stories about family, about harvest, about travel, all in low voices that did not disturb anyone. In the palace, Gajah Mada viewed this kingdom from a distance. He stood in a slightly high part of the palace, looking at oil lamps that looked like small stars on the ground. He knew that glory was not just about great victory, but about the peace that could be felt by his people. And that night, he felt a peace rarely possessed by any kingdom. He closed his eyes for a moment, inhaling the soft night air, and letting himself merge with the silence of Majapahit. Everything went slowly. Everything went softly. And everything moved following the same rhythm. A rhythm that soothed the heart. Majapahit was in its golden age. And we are still following its gentle steps. Days in Majapahit ran like a river flow that never got tired. No morning felt as soft as the previous night. Every afternoon felt like time arranged by nature's own hand. And the life of Majapahit people took place in a harmony seemingly designed to soothe anyone witnessing it. Among all activities taking place in Majapahit, there was one group often walking from village to village. Wanderers and storytellers. They were not royal envoys, nor big merchants, but simple people, carrying stories and news from one place to another. Imagine an old storyteller walking on a long dirt road. He carries a wooden stick, a small cloth bag, and calm footsteps. He is not in a hurry, because the purpose of the journey is not the place he is heading to, but the experience in his journey. When he arrives at a village, children will sit around him, their eyes sparkling but their voices remaining soft. He starts telling stories about distant lands, about high mountains, and about stars that seem to have their own stories. He speaks with a slow rhythm, letting every word fall to the ground, like a leaf falling from a large tree. In another village, there are farmers working from morning to late afternoon. Although their work is heavy, they do it with a calmness difficult to describe. Their hands plant rice seedlings, touching the soft soil, and water flowing through the rice field buns produces a soothing sound. When the sun peaks, they stop for a moment in a small hut in the middle of the rice field, drinking water from a pitcher, wiping sweat, then looking at the green rice field stretching out. Truly, at such times, all burdens feel like evaporating in the wind. Majapahit farmers do not complain much. They live close to the land, and land gives them what they need, in a way as soft as the way they care for it. In silence, they understand that simplicity is a form of wealth easiest to enjoy. Not far from the rice field, usually heard the sound of chisels from wood and stone carvers. They sit cross-legged, forming beautiful reliefs telling ancient stories of the archipelago. Their hands work without haste, following the rhythm of long and deep breaths. Sometimes they stop, gazing at their work with calm eyes, before resuming carving. For Majapahit carvers, art is not just a job. Art is a way to talk to the world. Without voice, every carving line is like one breath released with full awareness. And every small carving is a reminder that the world never needs violence to be beautiful. In the city center, small merchants continue working as usual. They arrange goods, cook traditional food, and greet each other friendly. Among them, there are cloth weavers spinning traditional looms. The sound of the loom moving up and down sounds like a soft knock that soothes. A regular rhythm, blending with the flow of Majapahit life. The fabrics they produce have natural colors: earth brown, turmeric yellow, brick red, and leaf green. Those colors are not flashy, but warm, calm, and as if bringing the scent of earth just washed by rain. Elsewhere, sailors returning from long journeys rest in coastal huts. They sit while looking at the sea, listening to the sound of waves breaking on the reef, and letting their minds float to distant places they visited. But although they have seen many lands, Coming home to Majapahit always gives a different feeling. A feeling of coming home to a place where the world moves more softly. Gajah Mada also witnessed all this. He often walked among his people, greeting them with a small smile. He liked that simplicity. He liked the way his people worked without pressure, lived without noise, and created peace that seeped even into the corners of the kingdom. One night, when the moon appeared full in the sky, Gajah Mada walked slowly in the palace courtyard. Moonlight fell among the trees, creating gently swaying shadows. He stopped near a small pond, reflecting the face of the moon perfectly. The water was calm, almost not moving. And inside that reflection, he saw the kingdom he guarded. A peaceful kingdom. A kingdom radiating calmness. A kingdom growing not with force, but with gentle will. From people who loved silence. In the distance, night insects began to sing. Their voices formed a soothing rhythm. Like a lullaby, nature gave to Majapahit. And that night, Gajah Mada understood one thing. That the greatest strength does not come from weapons, but from a calm heart, and people living in harmony. Majapahit was at the peak of its peace. And our journey is still long. Majapahit entered a period where its peace was felt not only in the center of the kingdom, but also in distant islands sheltering under its shadow. This great kingdom was like a shady tree, shading many lives under it. Imagine an ancient archipelago map, with large and small islands, connected by blue oceans. But it was not the line of power most visible, but fine lines of trade, culture, and stories, moving like the wind, and binding everything into one soft world. In distant islands, Majapahit merchants came not to rule, but to exchange goods, and bring peaceful news. They taught the art of weaving, introduced ways of farming, and brought stories from their great land. When island residents received guests from Majapahit, they rarely felt tension. What they met were people, walking with slow steps, warm smiles, and a way of speaking full of politeness. At the house of a village elder, residents gathered to hear stories about Majapahit, about the calm flowing river, about the palace with fine carvings, about the large garden flowering all year round. Every story sounded like a dream, inspiring them to live peacefully. Meanwhile, in Majapahit itself, days kept rolling. People worked without pressure. Children grew up with laughter. And nature gave its blessings. In the daytime, clouds moved slowly in the light blue sky. Their shadows passed over green rice fields, like soft brush strokes on canvas. Farmers stopped for a moment, looked up, and felt the peace falling with that shadow. In the city, merchants from various lands came bringing unique goods. From the stone floor of the port, we could hear their soft footsteps, and the sound of long cloth fluttering, like a slow dance in the warm air. Gajah Mada, although increasingly busy with royal affairs, kept his habit to walk in the afternoon in the palace garden. He walked without guards, because people respected him. With a quiet respect, he sat on a stone bench, facing a lotus pond. Those lotus flowers bloomed slowly, as if knowing someone was looking at them. With full attention. The water in the pond moved slightly. Because small fish swam underneath. That movement created soft ripples, breaking the reflection of the twilight sky. He stared at it for a long time, feeling that calmness seep to the bottom of his heart. It was in those small moments he felt the true meaning of peace. Not power, not military glory, but a long day, ending with a soft wind, and a heart not covered by worry. Majapahit was in its best period, a time full of peace, and felt like an endless summer. And our journey is still not finished. Like all things in this world, glory also has its twilight. But in Majapahit, that twilight came not as a storm, but as a soft afternoon wind. Change came like a cloud shadow, passing slowly over the rice field surface. Visible, but not disturbing. In some distant regions, local rulers began to want to stand alone. But their actions were not colored by harsh rebellion. Everything happened like a leaf detaching from a branch. After being held by the wind for long, Majapahit felt it, but did not flinch. The kingdom had long lived in peace, so that change felt like a natural part of its life flow. In the palace, royal elders spoke about the future, but their voices remained soft, like someone speaking inside a room full of candles. No panic shouts, no hurried decisions, only gentle conversations, filled with wisdom and age. The people of Majapahit carried out their days as usual. They realized the change, but they accepted it, like they accepted the change of seasons. There were things to keep. There were things to let go. One afternoon, Gajah Mada sat back at the edge of the lotus pond. But this time the wind was slightly different. Slower. Colder. More like a gentle reminder that the world always changes, even the most peaceful one. He saw the reflection of his face in the water. There were thin lines appearing, not only because of age, but because of the burden of responsibility, now starting to feel heavier. But he was not restless. He accepted all of that, like a farmer accepting rain and heat, as part of life. Twilight in Majapahit became longer. The sky was often filled with orange color, touching palace tiles with soft light. Birds returned to nests faster, and night wind came with a deeper whisper. And although slowly, Majapahit territory began to stand alone, the people still lived life without fear. They knew that whatever happened, they had a legacy from a time so calm. Majapahit did not collapse. Majapahit only changed. And that change flowed like a long river, calm, peaceful, and full of acceptance. The end finally came to Majapahit, like night came to a long day. Not suddenly, not with a loud voice, but gently. Majapahit was slowly left behind, not because of destruction, but because the world kept going. And the kingdom chose not to fight the flow of time. In Triulan, houses began to be quiet. Some families moved to other areas. bringing memories of peace with them. The palace once magnificent remained standing, but voices inside it became softer, rarer, more like whispers of the past. Trees grew taller, grass covered old roads, and nature, which from the start was Majapahit's friend, began to cover the kingdom gently, like a green blanket, for a kingdom wanting to rest. Gajah Mada was no longer seen. His name lived in stories, but he himself had become part of a greater calmness. The people of Majapahit, who now live in various new places, carried values of peace to the next generation. They told their children about a great kingdom, not only strong, but also soft like the forest wind. And when night fell over the hidden ruins of Majapahit, the world seemed to hold its breath, to honor the kingdom that once surrounded the archipelago with harmony. Majapahit is not truly lost. It just changed form, becoming a story, becoming a memory, becoming a soft whisper, living in the Java wind. And tonight, you have walked with that kingdom, from its silent birth to its peaceful glory, until finally it returned to nature's embrace. Now, let yourself rest too. Breathe slowly. Let your eyes close. Let your body sink. In the calmness you have heard, Majapahit has slept. And now it's your turn. Have a good rest. Good night. Sleep calmly.